Welcome to When Gen X Ruled the Multiplex, the films that shaped the MTV generation. Today I'm discussing 1985's Vision Quest, which is a pretty low-key drama about a healthy and emotionally stable high school senior's attempts to lose 10 pounds. Vision Quest was directed by Harold Becker, then known for 1981's Taps, who would go on to direct Malice and Sea of Love. The script is by Daryl Ponison, best known as the author of the novel The Last Detail, but who is also the screenwriter of Taps. Vision Quest is based on a 1979 novel by Terry Davis. Davis was born and raised in Spokane, Washington, as was I, and Vision Quest is firmly entrenched in the Spokane of my childhood. It filmed there in 1983 when I was 9 years old. We meet 18-year-old high school senior Loudon Swain at wrestling practice in a high school gym. Loudon is played by Matthew Modine, known at the time for Alan Parker's Birdie, who would go on to star in Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket in 1987. Modine is one of those actors who is often a leading man, and he's had a high degree of name recognition for 35 years now, but he's never been what we traditionally think of as a movie star. Unlike many of his peers at the time of Vision Quest, he wasn't a member of the Brat Pack, and he isn't known for having a tabloid-friendly personal life. He's mostly known for turning in good performances, and Vision Quest is an excellent early showcase for his talents. Hovering behind Loudon's shoulder there, please note the presence of Forrest Whitaker, future Academy Award winner for The Last King of Scotland, who has a tiny role here as one of Loudon's teammates, who, the credits tell me, is named Balldozer. Loudon's coach, played by Hunter's Charles Hallahan, assembles the team together. Loudon is the team's #1 wrestler in his former weight class, but he's just dropped 12 pounds, which puts him in a lower weight class, and he's looking to lose an additional 10 pounds, which will put him in the right class to wrestle the undefeated regional 3-time champion, a near-mythical beast named Shoot. Loudon's coach has serious doubts about the wisdom of this idea. To prove to his coach that he can do it, Loudon wrestles his friend Cooch, who is #1 in Loudon's current weight class, and defeats him. Cooch is played by former model Michael Schoeffling, already famous at this time for playing the spectacularly handsome Jake Ryan in 16 Candles. Michael Schoeffling is still famous for playing Jake Ryan, and always will be famous for playing Jake Ryan, even though he retired from acting in 1991 to pursue his true passion of making wood furniture. Schoeffling's entire acting career lasted less than 8 years from start to finish, and yet he remains an object of fascination among members of Gen X, partly because he voluntarily stepped away from a successful film career, and partly because, well, look at him. Journey's Only the Young plays while Loudon jogs through Spokane, ending at a downtown hotel where he works as a bellhop. I am overflowing with trivia about all of these filming locations, and I am fighting back the urge to identify them all for you. That's the Ridpath Hotel. That's the Onion Bar and Grill. But I'm self-aware enough to realize that 99% of you watching this will be thinking, lady, we do not care. I'll limit myself to saying that Spokane looks remote, silent, and shatteringly lovely on film, which matches up with my childhood memories. Loudon has a friendly relationship with a hotel chef, Elmo, played by character actor J.C. Quinn. Elmo is supportive but skeptical of Loudon's plan to lose weight and wrestle Shoot. While delivering room service, Loudon chats with Kevin, a Tai Chi practicing hotel guest played by Canadian actor R.H. Thompson, and tells him about his wrestling and his 600-calorie-a-day diet. Kevin offers to teach him Tai Chi, which he uses as an excuse to fondle Loudon's junk. Loudon swiftly extricates himself from the situation. After leaving Kevin's room, Loudon drops in the hallway to do some push-ups, and as soon as his shift ends, he heads out on another jog. One of the fascinating elements of Vision Quest is how much of it is devoted to seeing Loudon train and to seeing him avoid food. While everyone around him chows down on burgers and fries and pizza and slices of pie, Loudon will be sipping water or drinking a protein shake. If this film were made today, it would probably examine whether Loudon is engaging in disordered eating or other unhealthy behaviors, but that's not really a concern of Vision Quest. The film just shows the steps Loudon takes to reach his goal, and it shows that there are both positive and negative repercussions to his approach. While Loudon is out jogging, Cooch drives by on his motorcycle and yells at him for beating him in the match during practice. Cooch, who has a mohawk and wears feathers in his hair, identifies as half Native American. As with every other character in this film apart from Loudon, Cooch thinks Loudon's plan to wrestle Shoot is madness. Sammy Hagar's All Fall in Love Again and Foreigner's Hot-Blooded play in the high school cafeteria, where Loudon argues with a teammate named Otto, played by Gary Casper, over his decision to wrestle Shoot. At his heavier weight, Loudon is an integral part of the team, and his coach and teammates worry that Loudon will screw over the team by messing with his body. Loudon meets up with his friend Margie, played by Daphne Zuniga, who starred in Spaceballs and The Sure Thing in the 80s and went on to become a regular on the soapy Fox series Melrose Place. Margie is the editor of the high school newspaper, and Loudon is a frequent contributor. Their scenes don't really have much to do with the main plot, but they have a nice, easy dynamic together, and these scenes help establish that Loudon is a pretty well-balanced kid with interests outside of wrestling. Loudon plays a pickup basketball game with his English teacher, Mr. Tannerin, played by Harold Sylvester, whom Gen X kids will recognize as Griff from Married with Children. Mr. Tannerin is clearly fond of Loudon, but he also counsels him not to wrestle shoot. During practice, Otto tries to climb to the top of the climbing pegboard and falls short while his teammates taunt him. This is a film with a great deal of testosterone, by the way. If films had odors, Vision Quest would smell of Bengay and ball sweat. While grappling together, Cooch tells Loudon that by trying to lose the weight and wrestle shoot, Loudon is on a vision quest, which is a Native American concept which describes the rite of passage boys take to achieve adulthood. Loudon jogs to a used car lot where his father, played by Ronnie Cox of Deliverance and RoboCop, works as a mechanic. Loudon's dad has just gotten fired for punching out one of the lot salesmen for selling a lemon to a 21-year-old drifter named Carla, an aspiring artist from New Jersey who is making her way to San Francisco. While Loudon's dad tries to sort out the situation, Loudon takes Carla to a diner where Quarter Flash's Heart in My Heart plays while they get to know each other. Carla, who is tough and worldly, is played by Linda Fiorentino in her screen debut. Fiorentino would go on to star in The Last Seduction, Dogma, and Men in Black, but she has largely vanished from Hollywood in recent years. Loudon and his dad invite Carla to stay with them until she gets her car fixed. She moves into Loudon's bedroom while Loudon sleeps in the basement. When Cooch meets Carla and learns she's living with Loudon, he is suitably impressed. Loudon and Cooch watch Shoot's daily training regimen, which consists of carrying a telephone pole on his back up flights of stairs at a stadium. Shoot is played by Frank Jasper, a bodybuilder who was pre-med at nearby Eastern Washington University, who was picked for the role at an open casting call in Spokane. Loudon begins to fall in love with Carla, and the next thing you know, he's sniffing her freshly washed underwear, which is creepy. He goes to a bar where he chats with Mr. Tanneran before Carla, who just happens to be there, asks him to dance. There are sparks between them, but it's clear Carla just thinks of him as a dumb underwear-sniffing kid. Vision Quest filmed in Spokane in November of 1983, and Madonna's debut album had come out just a few months earlier, and she wasn't yet famous, which helps explain why Madonna is singing in this dive bar in Spokane, performing Crazy for You and Gambler. Back at school, Loudon passes out in the hallway, either from dehydration or from trying to live on 600 calories a day while training all the time. His coach orders him to stop losing weight and training so much. While Change by John Waite plays, Loudon climbs to the very top of the pegboard, which reassures his coach as to his total dedication to defeating Shoot. While arm wrestling Elmo in the hotel kitchen, Loudon gets a nosebleed, which, like his fainting, is a side effect of his training. After he spots Carla out on a dinner date with Mr. Tanneran, Loudon falls into a deep funk. In classic Pacific Northwest style, he deals with his hurt feelings by becoming super passive-aggressive and goes far out of his way to pointedly ignore them both. Carla is from New Jersey and has no patience for this nonsense, so she confronts Loudon, whereupon he acts like an ass and aggressively tries to kiss her. Carla tells him off. Loudon drops by Cooch's home and sees him getting slapped around by his drunk and abusive father, played by Nash Bridges' James Gannon. Distraught, Cooch admits to Loudon that he's not actually half Native American, it's just something he made up to feel better about his rotten home life. While Dio's Hungry for Heaven plays, Loudon and Cooch take the team bus to a match. Cooch is embarrassed that Loudon witnessed the scene with his father, so Loudon boosts his spirits by confessing that Carla caught him sniffing her underwear. At the match, Loudon's nose keeps bleeding all over his opponent. Even though his coach jams cotton up his nose and sends him back in, Loudon ultimately loses the match due to a medical default. After the match, Loudon encounters his nemesis, Shoot, in the boys' room, and Shoot takes the opportunity to taunt him. Carla takes Loudon to a diner where she eats pie while he sips water as Shout to the Top by the Style Council plays. In a burst of newfound maturity, Loudon assures Carla he's cool with her dating his English teacher, and Carla kisses him. Loudon's nose keeps bleeding at random intervals, and it's clear he's pushing his body to his limit, so his dad orders him to take the weekend off and go visit his grandfather, who lives deep in the woods and who is played by Roberts Blossom, best known as Old Man Marley in Home alone. Carla goes along for the ride, and they bond while camping overnight en route to his grandfather's cabin. Loudon confesses to Carla that he's still a virgin, which does not come as any particular surprise to her. Carla and Loudon sleep together, and the next thing you know, he's sneaking forbidden bites of her pizza and openly reconsidering his training regimen. This concerns Carla greatly. They return to Spokane, and while Berlin's No More Words plays, Loudon returns from wrestling practice to find Carla gone. The day of the big match arrives, and as the two teams weigh in, a heartbroken Loudon is nowhere in sight. Loudon visits Elmo and finds that he's taken the night off of work, thus giving up a day's pay so he can watch Loudon wrestle. Elmo gives a dispirited Loudon a pep talk about how a 6-minute wrestling match may not seem like much, but has the potential to affect lives. Loudon shows up at the weigh-in at the last minute. He strips down to his birthday suit and steps on the scale, and yep, he's lost the 10 pounds and thus qualifies to wrestle shoot. Carla drops by the locker room to apologize to him for leaving without saying goodbye, and while Red Ryder's Lunatic Fringe plays, Loudon warms up for his match. Everyone important in Loudon's life is at the match. Carla, Loudon's dad and granddad, Elmo, Margie, and Mr. Tanneran. And yes, despite various ups and downs, even though his nose keeps bleeding, Loudon defeats Shoot and wins the championship. The outcome of the match was never really in doubt, because if there's anything I've learned from inspirational sports-themed 1980s teen films like Youngblood, Karate Kid, and yes, even Teen Wolf, it's that it's always going to end with a big win for the little guy. So the climax of Vision Quest isn't important. What's important is the journey Loudon takes to get there. In the big picture, Loudon's goal, while difficult to attain, has relatively low stakes. He's assured of a wrestling scholarship at his heavier weight, and in fact, he could only potentially jeopardize that by losing weight and taking on Shoot. But the film makes it clear his goal isn't about ensuring a better future for himself, or improving his present circumstances, or helping his team win the championship. Like Cooch says, it's all about his vision quest. He's doing this to transition from a boy to a man. We can make that more universal and say this film is about the journey to adulthood in general. Loudon and his peers, particularly Cooch and Margie, are good kids, but they're still teenagers. They're messy and emotional, and they make a lot of iffy decisions. Everything that happens in this film centers around how Loudon is poised at the crossroads between childhood and adulthood. Even what seems like an unrelated vignette early on, Loudon getting groped by the hotel guest, who in the context of the scene doesn't seem like he's trying to be predatory so much as he's just making a deeply inappropriate and clumsy pass, is about Loudon transitioning to the adult world and being increasingly viewed as an adult. Luckily for Loudon, he's surrounded by adults who provide him with well-balanced templates for what adult life can look like. His dad, his grandfather, his coach, Mr. Tanneran, and Elmo are all invested in Loudon successfully making that transition to adulthood. And then there's Carla, who is an adult woman who shows Loudon how to have an adult sexual relationship. As soon as Loudon stops acting like a kid around her, as soon as he stops sniffing her panties and stops flouncing around in a snit when she goes out with other guys, and as soon as he starts having actual conversations with her, Carla is able to view Loudon as an adult and a potential romantic partner. Most of us in Gen X started the 80s as kids or young teens, and we closed out the decade as adults or, like Loudon, on the cusp of adulthood. Watching Vision Quest in the mid-80s gave us a preview of what that transition could look like. It's a pretty simple and low-drama story, but it's well told, and it's populated by interesting characters who are well played by interesting actors. Even if inspirational sports films aren't your thing, even if you have zero interest in high school wrestling, there's still a lot to appreciate about Vision Quest. Next time, I'm going to dive into Highlander, Russell Mulcahy's big, ambitious, exuberant cult classic from 1986. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you then.